Welcome everyone to Low Brass U episode 0. So we'll get into a little bit more what that exactly means a little bit later, but it's going to be officially called Low Brass U Studio Class. So this is episode 0. We'll kind of talk about some of the goals and objectives and a few different things, but we can't do that until we introduce our co-host here.
Hello, co-host LBU hanging out. This is my name's Connor. Good to see everybody again, and we are excited to be launching Low Brass U Studio Class episode 0.
Yes, it's all very exciting. I'm gonna test the comments thing because I didn't test that, and no one has commented any. Well, I thought that was part of the live. Let's see if that goes on there. It does. Everything still works as it's supposed to.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so this is Studio Class episode 0, and I had to restart my computer, so I no longer have my handy Google Doc sheet because I'm trying to be slightly more prepared, but now it is gone from me. So I'm gonna take a second here and put some stuff on the screen here. If we can all just give me 1 second. So. As per usual, we'll shout out. That's actually not what I wanted on there. We'll shout out the store. So we've got some merch, and mine's slightly out of frame, but you can see
mine is very fashionably in frame.
Right.
I'll say.
And everyone needs a long sleeve shirt as summer approaches. So you can see we've got the hoodies and everything, perfect for summertime. I know everyone's been asking, how do I stay warm in the summertime, and don't worry, there are hoodies for you, so that won't be a problem. But we also got to stay hydrated. I actually left my mug in the other room, so I'm incompetent today. I just can't win. But yes, so a couple of things we want to talk about. One of the things first that we'll kind of mention is that we want to have this studio class kind of being like a simulated kind of, studio class that you would have in a real kind of college situation, or, not necessarily just for college students or anything, but, doing things that you would do in a studio class. So in kind of a typical college studio class, you might do some playing, you might talk about a topic, you might kind of do all these different things. So to kind of simulate as best we can the playing element, I set up a Google form that should be linked in the description. If not, I'm very sorry, but I think it should be in there. I'll drop it in there now, actually. So let's copy that link. We'll shorten the URL just to make it easier. It should be in there now. So I think it's also in the description. But yeah, so essentially this studio class performance element is going to be, a way for you to play and us to give you some feedback, and kind of, want to feature the people who are, always on here and always chatting and things. So I thought that would be a kind of helpful way. So I just kind of created this Google Docs form, or Google form, where, you just put in your email, upload your video to YouTube, and a couple kind of guideline things and a couple questions about yourself. So we've had one submission. We kind of did it last week. I think we might revisit that one in episode 1, since we didn't have Connor there when I was talking about it last time, and I think it'll just be better if both of us are doing it together. So this Google Docs thing is or Google Form. I keep getting those mixed up. Is essentially just a good way to get everybody to get some screen time, and we can talk about different things, and maybe that'll spur some teaching. Any thoughts you have, Connor? I want to just keep talking.
No, I think that this is probably the most valuable resource that you could have. Not saying that our opinions are worth their weight in gold or anything, but this is a cool opportunity to share your playing with a much larger community, get immediate feedback that might inform your playing. It might inform the playing of others. I'll say it will inform the playing of all of ours. I think it's a great, cool way to build a community here that makes it really personal. And I really am excited to hear you all, and I think it would just be such a fun thing to do. So, yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, this is something that I've kind of thought about for a while, especially with Instagram. That was always a common thing that I'd get someone in my DMs asking me to, can you give me some feedback about this? But I thought this would be kind of a better resource and better way of doing it, is just kind of having it in this live forum. And theoretically, we have the technology, although the technology loves to misbehave as it did today, which is why we were just a couple minutes late. So theoretically, technology works and everything is just fine. But technology does its own thing sometime. So let me go ahead and pull up that Google Docs thing. Let's see here. So another kind of thing that's you may or may not have noticed, I kind of wonder if all the people who watch the live stream are also people who watch videos on the channel, but there's not really a way of knowing that unless people comment. So you may have noticed that there are more videos on the channel going up pretty regularly, and if you watch to the end of those, you'll even hear me say daily videos. So Low Brass U is committed to daily videos, so I've said it here, you have to hold me to it. But yeah, so we'll have daily videos. The way I'm kind of doing it right now is 7 days in a week, right? So 1 etude from euphonium, 1 etude for tuba, 1 etude for bass trombone, 1 etude for tenor trombone. So those are 4 things. The live stream I'm counting, and then a talking head video, and then the last one, I don't know that I have a perfect category for it, but I kind of, right now I'm just having that be a potpourri thing. It might be some other performance. It might be another talking head video. It might be a product review or something like that. Depends on what people want to see at the end of the day. I think that's important. This is not just us talking at people. This is ideally helpful. So content suggestions for those sorts of things are definitely valid. So yeah, Connor and I have talked a little bit about just kind of our goals for the studio class. I think we're going to try to have a main topic each week. So I think we'll go ahead and do one of our topics today. I don't know if you checked out the Google Google Doc, Connor. So we'll maybe go into that, and then maybe talk a little bit about the Patreon a little bit later. So I think for episode 0, it's kind of a half episode. It's partially an episode, partially not. But I figured we would just talk a little bit about lead trombone playing, and I thought that doing this in kind of this form might be a way of maybe this turns into a real video on the channel at some point. But for right now, maybe it's a way of me, Connor and I, to be able to answer some questions, and then maybe we could put those things in the video, because maybe we don't know what people don't know or what people want to know, and maybe we don't have the answers today, and we need to figure out those answers. So Connor, do you want to open things up on the lead trombone topic? Just maybe some of the things that you think about when you sit in that big chair.
Oh, when I sit in that big chair. Sure, I can talk about some of the things that are going through my head. But first off, the things that are important to a lead trombone player are probably the same things that are important to a second or a third or a fourth trombone player, in that we're kind of right in the middle of the orchestration, usually for voicings, and we're right in the middle of the ensemble as far as blend. And so your job is always to make everyone else have as good of a time as possible. And the way that you do that is that you play exactly in tune with them, you play exactly in time with them, and you play exactly in tone. You're matching. The difference, I think, and maybe the things that are unique to me when I'm playing a lead trombone chair, is that I'm thinking compositionally. So things that I see written on the page, maybe things I know historically about the types of charts or the composer, or what I know the band likes to get out of itself. What sort of stylistic autonomy do I have? So what musical decision making am I going to have to be making in real time, as far as style, articulations, ornaments, things like that might be a little more lead trombone specific. Still, a lot of that even falls into what's the lead trumpet and the lead alto player doing. Or thinking about, if you have material that you're playing as a trombonist that is a melody that's already been played by another voice somewhere in the big band, how can you maybe not mimic the way, to give you an example, let's say that the head end that you're playing in your big band chart is small group style. So maybe fourth trumpet, second trombone, and first tenor are harmonized,
Classic
playing the melody.
pairing.
Classic pairing. And then later on in the shout chorus, some part of that melody is a trombone solo, and you're on the top, so you're playing the melody line. You've got decisions to make, and you got to think, what serves the music? Do I need to play in the exact same style that I remember hearing, probably the fourth trumpet player playing that melody? Or do I need to add some mustard, as some might say? Does it need to be more aggressive? Does it need to be softer? What would serve the music? Where are we right now? Are we in a shout chorus? Where are we going? Or, things like that. So those are the types of things that are running in my head, is how can I blend with the ensemble, and how can my position of power as far as stylistic changes, how can that serve the composition that we're all collectively playing? So yeah, those are my thoughts about lead trombone playing. What do you got, Zach?
Yeah, I think I kind of think about it the way that I approach, most large ensemble playing is first figuring out what what my role is. And I talk about this with like playing tuba and orchestra. It's like sometimes you're fourth trombone, sometimes you're fourth bassoon, sometimes you're fifth horn. It's kind of the same thing with lead trombone playing, or just big band playing in general. Sometimes you might be fifth, sixth, fourth trumpet. You might be last chair trumpet essentially. And in those moments, you're not really lead anything. You're a follower who just happens to play a different instrument. And I think that at the end of the day, that's what a lot of lead trombone playing really is you're part of the trumpet section, and you need to do what the trumpets do what the lead trumpet player is doing. But then there are kind of the golden moments to me, and the reason why I like playing in a big band is when the trumpets aren't playing or not playing with the trumpets, and I kind of think about it as now I'm actually lead. I actually have some control over what's going on. Does that mean that we put all of the mustard on it, as Connor said? Not necessarily, but to me, that's where I start off thinking, is this an appropriate place to add a little bit of sauce, add a little something extra that might not be on the page? So to me, it's like most of the time we're sitting there, and if we're playing the same rhythms as the trumpets at the same time, you really shouldn't be adding all that much. There are exceptions to that, and I wouldn't quite say it's a rule, but I'd have to think really hard of the times that I would not say that that's a solid rule. I think it's a rule that I follow 99% of the time. But then when the trumpets aren't playing, I kind of see that as being, I'm in charge in this chair. If the saxophones are also playing, sometimes maybe you're not. But I definitely see the big band primarily as a hierarchy from back to front. And that's partially just how we hear also. I think that's one reason why that hierarchy works, is because you can't always hear what's going on in front of you. I mean, you should try to listen, and you should try to listen for things, but you can't necessarily always hear what the second tenor player in front of you might be doing. So for me, that's one of the things that I kind of think about. And I'm always trying to find those moments, and obviously not just taking every single moment to just be the craziest, most outlandish, wild trombone slide flip that could possibly happen. But that's kind of my starting place for finding those sorts of things. Connor, for you, when you're playing lead trombone, how do you approach dealing with the lead trumpet player? Do you, are they just do whatever they want to do and you just follow that, or do you, ask questions to them? What's your kind of go-to thinking with that?
It probably depends on the scenario and how well I know that lead trumpet player or what we're doing in the band. But if I'm sitting in a band for the very, very first time and I'm sitting in lead trombone, I will defer most stylistic decisions, probably all, at least for the first few tunes. I'll just go with whatever the first trumpet player is doing, because I need to figure out where their time is. I need to figure out what types of stylistic decisions they like to make, because sometimes, like we were saying, like a real trombone playing with lots of bravado and smears and intense volume is really, really appropriate, and that will make the overall composition sound better. And if you don't do that, it's going to sound like, wow, everyone was really intense and the trombone section was kind of sandbagging. Otherwise, if the band's kind of laying off and you want to make friends, you want to get hired back the next time, don't go live at Redlands University all over these people. You've got to maybe take a chill pill a little bit. And I think that was a lesson that I learned, was how to subtly put in the moments where trombones get to be the heroes in like community reading bands in various larger metropolitan areas that I've lived in, and not trying to go airman of note on everybody or 1 o'clock lab band on the situation when maybe that was not super duper appropriate. So I kind of read the room, but if I really do think that something, if maybe we start where the energy level is a little low and I think we need to go somewhere, if there's an opportunity where it's stylistically appropriate for me to stick out, I might take it upon myself as the section leader to say, this trombone figure is going to push us into another energy level. Like maybe we're going into something a little more intense and we're the last people to really get a say of this melodic material before we go into the next chapter. If I don't get us, at a higher energy level, then no one's going to, and they're going to think, oh, this is just not a very exciting song. It's like, no, it's cool. Let's keep this thing going. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it definitely does. And I think, to summarize, you kind of are saying play to the room,
Yeah.
What people are doing, and what seems to make sense. And I think that's, ultimately getting hired back is the goal of pretty much every musician, right? We all want to be able to be hired back and play again with whatever group or something like that. So what I kind of think about is definitely playing to the room, to the people, and each situation is different. You may know every single person in the band really, really well. So, all of those sorts of things can very much change depending on the situation, how well you know people. But yeah, I think with lead trumpet players, for me, I like to kind of if I know them well, I will ask some questions, but I always kind of approach it as they're right, even if I don't necessarily see it that way. Like a perfect example is when someone, plays something and, their cutoff was not accurate to what I had on my my sheet of paper. It said off on 4 and it was off on 1. And if the trumpet player is doing it, we should probably also do it. Depending on the situation, if I know the trumpet player, I might ask. I might say, hey, or measure 25, or you're doing off on 1 there. And then especially if I know the person, they might say, oops, I shouldn't have. It should be off on 4. Because what you don't want is you hear them play off on 1 and you say, okay, great, off on 1. And then the next time they realize that they made that mistake and then they're off on 4 and then you're hanging over. And then it's just like, ultimately you were trying to just do the right thing and be kind, but it may have made it where, sometimes you only get 2 chances and the second chance is the performance. So, at some level, I think that's one of those things that I think about. So, but yeah, and I think that there, with lead trombone, I guess another kind of thing to think about is how you're interfacing with, your section, with the people who you're, supposedly leading. And that's always a tricky thing, again, depending on the context. It's like the two of us have played in sections together. We can pretty much talk openly, right? We've done this before. There aren't a whole lot of, interpersonal, like, I don't know, do you think this person is going to get offended if I say this? Or if I, obviously we still keep it, pretty kind and relaxed. But it's like I can say, hey, I think you're flat on that. Or you could say, hey, like, that's out of time. Like, you want to check that rhythm?
We have a relationship where that level of communication that might otherwise be a little deeply personal, if you're first meeting a trombone player in your section, like that's, if you're playing with your buddy and you can say that, that's fine. Yes, but be sensitive to those types of things. Otherwise, I guess when you're playing with a section. And speaking of intonation stuff, there was a point that I thought of that while you were talking about blend, like back to front, that was an interesting sort of case study that I think is worth talking about, because it wasn't something that I thought about until I accidentally did it correctly and a saxophone player commented on it, which made me think, how many times have I screwed this up before? So the thing is, when you're blending with a section, or most importantly, if you are the lesser power, meaning like lead trumpet is playing with you, especially if you're playing the same lettered pitch, you might not be playing the same octave. But let's say you're both playing high B naturals. The lead trumpet player is going to put it where it is, and you need to match that. And also with that, especially when things are in perfect unison, whoever's putting it where it is needs to play it at full volume, and whoever's blending with that person just needs to be decibel wise actually like softer, and it's going to sound like you're both playing at the same volume if you play in tune in that way. But if you're blending like that, you need to be playing very, very straight, nothing stylized. So you just put it exactly where that person puts it and don't move. And I was trying really, really hard to blend in a big band one time. This was Harry James Band in Hillsdale College in Michigan, like 2 or 3 years ago. And it was a high B natural. And I think it might've been like lead trumpet was playing it. Maybe fourth trumpet was playing it as well. And I was blended. I was in
you might have
perfect
been
unison with that.
With the fourth trumpet, probably.
Correct. I think I was. And after the show, because I kind of like when you're thinking about those high, like second position gets kind of funny the higher you go. It's like there's lots of different second positions. And I was thinking very intentionally about where this was going to slide. So I think the song was in G, but it was not a G chord. So I was like, I'm not tempering this down. That's a whole different discussion.
Right.
Anyways, the lead alto player turns around to me and says, after the show, of course, he's not like standing up middle of the song. He's like, hey, like, a lot of people really screw that up, but like he played his, what would that be for him? G sharp, right?
Oh, you're B on the trumpet?
Yeah.
Yeah. C sharp.
Or right? C sharp for trumpet. It was G sharp for the alto player.
Now,
right?
I don't know. Let's not do it.
Let's not worry about that. Anyways, he turns around and says, hey, the B, like that's normally really out of tune and it was fine. Like that was cool. Like
it's an A on trumpet. Sorry.
That was a really nice way for him to say that went fine. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it. We're gonna play transposition bingo some other time.
Right. We'll edit this out in post.
Yeah, we'll fix that in post.
Uh,
Anyways, all that to say, it was because I kept it straight and did exactly what the trumpet player told me. I didn't do anything particularly good. I didn't even know where the B was supposed to go. I just played what I heard behind me, and then I got free bounty points just for doing what I was told.
Right.
And sticking it exactly where it was, as opposed to like fishing around mid note. So something to be said. So I think that like a very
it's definitely C
empathetic.
For the record, it's definitely C sharp.
C sharp. Yeah, there you go. So a good alto player who is very sensitive and like well-to-do and knows like what to look for in big band voicings might be listening really, really closely to you.
Right.
So that's something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, those are definitely things to think of, and especially with intonation. I was having this discussion on a flight last week with someone talking about intonation. We're kind of like diving really deep into like equal temperament, just temperament, and the overtone series, all these like really complicated things. And I was just kind of like, ultimately, we just want to try to make it sound better. There's not really, you're right, I'm wrong all the time. And that's why, to me, it's much easier if there's a hierarchy of so-and-so is correct. The lead trumpet is correct. They're the answer key. Even if I don't agree, and maybe if it's really, really bad, if you know the person well, you might say, hey, can we check that one note? Like, can we try it with a tuner maybe? But in kind of just general day-to-day playing in a big band, you're playing the same note as lead trumpet, they're right. That's just the way, because they can't hear you. They can't really hear what's going on in front of them, especially with how loud big band can get at certain times. They're right. I think that's a good way to just kind of exist. But yeah, there's so many things to think about. And then there's the side of it where when you're, again, actually leading, like the trombone section, I try not to move for intonation things. I try to play in tune with myself and just place it where it goes. And, hopefully everyone else is accepting that in this scenario, I am the answer key. And their goal should just be to match me. If I'm playing second or third trombone, the lead trombone player is my answer key. I make it sound good with them. That is my entire kind of goal. So I think that all of those sorts of things, and with intonation, it's like, at some level, we're just trying to make it better. It may never get perfect. The striving for perfection is good, but it's almost impossible, especially with having instruments that are tuned in different ways. We can't necessarily tune to a piano and tune a chord for the winds. Those aren't the same thing. So we kind of just have to make it sound the best that we can and do the best we can. But yeah, I think lead trombone playing is an interesting thing because I don't think people talk about it that much. There's a couple scholarly sources that exist out there. I know there's the Steve Weiss Take the Lead book. It's not very long. It's like a little book. But it's like those sorts of things. It's like you kind of don't learn unless you know someone else who knows. I feel like I feel like I didn't really learn how to play lead trombone until I saw someone do it well.
Yep.
A lot of lead trombone is either just like underwhelming or it's too much. Finding the right balance to me is like the masterful thing of.
Oh, it's tricky.
And then there's also, it's like you want to have fun a little bit too. Why
else are we here?
Right. I'll admit that like sometimes I lean towards a little bit saucier than like I would say I get most moments that I can, depending on the concert, depending on the scenario. But I probably get most of the instances that I could. So you do something.
What's your favorite big band excerpt? We'll stay in the Basie library. What do you like to do what's the bad thing you like to do on a lead trombone chart?
So there are a couple. Let me get a couple for Basie. Hayburner. There's that one spot. It's like on the second page, and it's like A flat, like I think is what it is. A flat A G G, or something like that. It's like it's unison, then it splits with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those moments where I always just like lean to the section. I'd say we're gonna play that loudly, like really loudly.
Yeah.
And it's like a little bit, maybe I shouldn't be doing that always, but I think it sounds good and I like it, so I do it.
It's loud on the record.
It is loud on the record. So, that's one of those spots where it's like, it doesn't say to play it loudly, but I choose to, and I try to encourage the whole section, like, no, I'm going to play it loud, and you should play it loud with me.
Yeah.
And then another one that kind of, I think, is a good example of dealing with playing with the trumpets, but also making sure that you do your own thing, is, what is it? Basie straight ahead. Is that the one where there's that trumpet fall, and then the trombones have to get out of it to play like?
Oh.
Bop, bop.
Yep.
That's
the one.
That's a great moment to me where, because again, your job is to follow the trumpet player, but they're most likely going to have a ridiculously long fall, and you have to bail on them. The whole trombone section has to bail. And, whenever I play that, I'll lean to the section, like, before the tune starts, and it's like, I think it's top of page 2 or 3 or something. It's like, it's at the top of a page.
It's at the top of the second page. I know exactly what you're talking about. And here's a good point to, if you're playing Basie straight ahead with your band, community school, professional, otherwise, and the trumpet players do not hold out long enough that you actually have to bail from the fall to catch that figure, they need to fall longer.
Right.
That's just like, it just has to happen.
Right. It needs to be comically long. Just like a comically long fall. And to me, that's where I just like, because everybody else is still playing, but I would argue that the trombone stabs right there are like the most important part.
That's the icing on top of the cake.
So
texture-wise, right there.
I can't rember what note it is. It's like a high
A
B,
to G.
A to G. I know it's high, and it's like that. Just like, just up there, just like, and it's a good time, and I think that's. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut off your say the finish your thought. Honor your space.
It's one of those. That's one of those moments where, I am just essentially playing the notes, but they're loud and they're little. I think about changing my tone is a part of making things more interesting. Where it's like, that's a moment where I play the brightest version of my sound possible. The most just like compact laser beam, just like, dum, bum, just really, really, really pointed. Just really, really, really laying into it. But yeah, go ahead with what you were gonna say.
I was just going to piggyback on that. There's another section where the trombone section at the very bottom of the last page, right before the last hurrah, gets to be the hero one more time. And like, it's a background figure, but like the melody and the counter melody are already kind of going in like kind of classic Nestico style, but we've already heard them. I think we heard it in a different key. And now when we've gone to the new key to keep the momentum going, because it's kind of in between two shout figures, the trombone backgrounds become a melody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that little thing.
Yeah,
I love that.
That's definitely a great moment. And it's like those things, those small moments are what you live for in the trombone section. Is just when it's fun to play with the trumpets too. We do like them. They're our friends, or we try to have them be our friends. But when we have those moments where we can really just have our own little fun, and maybe lay back something, maybe do that. There are all these different little things that we're kind of able to do, which is always kind of a nice thing. So yeah, I think that Basie has a lot of, especially like Nestico charts, like there's a lot of fun little moments like that, and that's. I'm just always looking for those moments, and then the decision is, when I find those moments that were separate from the trumpets, what do we do with this information? Do we play something with it? Do we chill? Is it the right time? You have to think, big picture too. I always think about it like in terms of like pop songs. It's like, in the first verse, not everything is harmonized. Like, it's not like 3-part harmony throughout everything, right? It's like. Right. But then maybe the last verse, or, in the chorus, it's like, yeah, then everything spreads out and there's all this stuff. And there has to be kind of a logical progression. And each, it's not like it's always this perfect arc where it goes up and then back down. But, that's a common one. And there are lots of different ways of kind of approaching things. And I just try to find the right moments to do it. But I would say I probably lean towards doing a little bit more than not enough.
Yeah, I'd rather, walk away from a big band chart and be like, wow, we probably made that more exciting than we needed to, than, wow, that dude doesn't really put a lot into his music,
Right. And
you know?
that's one of those things that from Dr. Bowman, Brian Bowman, in Two Euphonium Ensemble at UNT, he would always say, it's easier to tame a wild horse than to beat life into a dead one. Which, is obviously a common saying, but I think that that's a really good way to think about it with playing lead trombone. And just in general, I tend to lean into the wild horse. Obviously, that can be a whole other thing where you don't get called back because you're doing that.
Right.
And you can go too far with it. To me, I think you stay out of a lot of trouble if you don't do anything when the trumpets are playing with you.
Mm-hmm.
And then, to me, when the trombones are alone, no trumpets, to me, that's where, we can do some stuff. And I'm not saying that if anybody says anything, they're wrong, but I think we have some artistic freedom in those sorts of scenarios that we don't always have.
Yeah. That's the leash-free dog park.
Right.
Get to have your fun. One more thing about Basie Straight Ahead.
Yeah.
Did you know there's lyrics to that song?
I don't think I knew that.
There's only lyrics to one part of the beginning of the melody where it goes doo dee doo dee doo dee doo dee doo dee doo. That whole section.
Yeah.
The lyrics, I've looked it up, is, so don't waste your time. I mean, you're already the voice inside of my head.
I've heard you say that before. I thought that was something you made up.
It is something I made up.
Oh.
But I wanted to say it on air just so that my idea was immortalized in the stream, because that's my favorite joke I've ever made before.
Okay. we'll let you have your moment. I was going to say, it's like, yeah, I've definitely heard you say that before, but I just kind of always assumed that was just like, that was a Connor-ism.
Right.
But
I can't cite the original source material that song comes from. I know I've heard it like a million bazillion times.
Yeah.
What is the song where those actual lyrics come from? Do you know?
No, I stopped learning lyrics a long time ago. That was like very much a part of my early jazz education, was like learn every standards lyrics, and then that kind of fell by the wayside.
All right, I'm looking it up.
Okay. While Connor is doing that, I'll address some of these comments that I didn't really address. But Zach said I thought that part was live when I was playing, and it was live. I was playing, and then when I played that intro, I put the tuba down. So I guess you have to trust me. You have to trust that this show is live at all. It could just be pre-recorded, right? But it's not. And then Zach also said you gotta protect those arms from harmful sun rays. Yep. So make sure you get your low brass U hoodie, for the summertime, to just protect your skin. It's really important. So.
Oh yeah.
And then got to have Harrison. I hope Harrison's still here, but community band was canceled, so made it to the stream.
Hey, glad to have you.
Not rooting for things to get canceled,
right?
But
sorry your thing got canceled.
Right, but also happy that you were able to make it. So, one other thing that I kind of wanted to talk about in low brass U studio class episode 0. Is something that I've kind of referenced in some videos, but I haven't really addressed at all. Is the Patreon that I started. So I'm sure most people are familiar with Patreon. I don't feel like I really need to explain exactly what Patreon is. But I wanted to start a Patreon for this channel. I've had a couple of people ask, from time to time, of how could I support this channel and the stuff that's going on. And so, this is a good way to do that. What I didn't want this to become, because I wrestled with this idea for a really long time. And one thing I didn't want it to become is a way of gatekeeping information. My goal was to make information, make the content free to everyone, make it where something, make it essentially what I would have liked when I was younger, like hearing things that I was working on, or, someone explaining a topic that maybe I didn't know, especially when Connor and I were younger. You couldn't just look up a lot of this stuff. There was no real resource for finding out a lot of information. There were a couple forums and things, but it was easy to get really lost in those as well. So, I started this Patreon. Essentially, the tiers, everything is the same, and it's really not, nothing crazy. It's so Patreon only or patron only Discord channel. So there'll be like a specific Discord channel that I monitor maybe a little bit more closely, but at this point I'm monitoring all of them closely. It's kind of more of a thought of in the future, in this magical future where everybody in the world is following Low Brass U and everybody's on the Discord.
Yes.
And then studio class performance priority. So I didn't want to make it where if you didn't pay, you couldn't get to play. But at some level, I hope that enough people are submitting things that we have to at least come up with some sort of hierarchy. So that's one of the ways that I thought that we could do that. And then I also threw this out there, a post-studio class stream. So, maybe we have an extra little stream at the end just for the patrons. But again, I didn't want this to be a thing where it was like, if you don't pay, you miss out on the good content. I didn't want to incentivize it in that way. Obviously, that's how most of those sorts of things go. But I felt like that was not what I wanted out of this channel, was to do that. So the Patreon is not just for Low Brass U Studio Class, but it's for the channel as a whole. And those sorts of if there is money that comes through that way, it'll be spent on upgrading the quality and paying for some of the things that I just pay for myself. That those Adobe subscriptions, they add up.
Yeah, buddy.
So things like that it's not just like the intention is not just me get rich off of Patreon or something, but it's to better the channel, be able to make more content, focus on it a little bit more, and make better and better content for everyone. So if that's something you're interested in, great. If not, keep enjoying all of the free content. I don't want to make it a thing where you feel like you have to do it or something, because you should take care of your money. It's your decision.
Right.
So hope that kind of clears up why I did it and what my thoughts are about it. But yeah, we'll throw a hello there.
There you go. Mr. Anonymous.
Almost at the same time. I know too, a man couldn't even heard me say it, but hello there. And then stay home. I guess that's what the YouTube symbol turns into. I guess that's our first time of seeing something along those lines.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of emojis in these parts.
Right. So I guess that's how it handles that. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
So in the future, I guess we'll find out what every emoji, is. I don't know. That seems like that's just an error. But
that seems like an encrypted message, just to be like, don't quit your day job. Just stay at home.
Right.
Just stay home, Zach.
At least I can see it before it comes up. That would be not the most fun thing to just it pops up on
mystery
screen.
text.
Right. I don't like mysteries. That's not how I live my life.
Speaking of mysteries, I Googled it. I figured out where the lyrics came from that I was saying over Basie Straight Ahead.
Right.
It's I Miss You, Blink-182.
Oh.
Yeah. Where are you? That whole thing. Yeah. That was good, right?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Got that on tape.
We'll probably get a copyright claim for it, but
Someday we'll have to tell the story about how the fad went through the party band that you play in of singing all jazz standards in a Blink-182 voice, and maybe we can get a guest recording of that from the vocalist in your band. That would be a fun thing to unpack.
That would be. I guess some emojis work. So
I see.
Those smiley ones work.
I thought he was having an allergic reaction.
Is that what that means?
It happened to me today. Where you're walking around outside. I was walking to the grocery store, like in springtime. I got a leaky eyeball. Horrible. It's the most uncomfortable experience.
Springtime can really hang you up the most. Isn't that what they say?
It can. Yes. I don't understand any of these melancholy,
great
sad songs about. Yeah.
Spring can really hang you up the most. Have you played that one? I don't think I've played it in big bands, but I've never been the person who's featured. But you know what I'm talking about, right? Or
yeah.
No? Yeah. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
But
we'll have to do some research on that tune and maybe talk about it more.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll never get to play it, Well, we'll at least know something about it next time.
Right. Harrison asks, you know any student composition contests? That's definitely
That's a really good question.
That's not my area of expertise. You know, I don't know that there might be some that I know, like iTech always does some stuff with that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if I can find anything on that. But yeah, that's not something I've ever done.
What I would say is check your state's like NAFME event, like it'll be your state's acronym, like TMEA, KMEA, WMEA, things like that. Look for that, ILMEA, and see if they don't have a student composition contest verbatim. I would be hard pressed to believe that if you had a great idea for a composition, you know, that it couldn't be presented in some way, either through a lecture where you talk about how you wrote it, or presented as a recital at the next year's convention. I'm sure they would be thrilled if you sent them something.
Yeah.
So that would be one way to do it. I think other than that, I mean, there's like, I don't know, like ASCAP has a big one, the Herb Alpert competition.
Yeah.
You can get some cheddar off that one.
Right.
That's jazz specific though.
Yeah, that's definitely, those sort of competitions are a little bit outside of my wheelhouse. It's not something I've looked into a ton. But yeah, I mean, I would just Google and, you know, keep asking people. I know we didn't really have your answer, but someone will.
We should do an ASCAP or a Herb Alpert comp. What we should do is like crowdsource pitch sets and rhythms from everybody in the chat and like group compose a low brass U submission, and then just like put all the money into the stream or something like that. Just straight for the algorithm.
Yeah.
Just random low brass competition piece.
That's like when
something to think about.
Someone did like playing Pokemon on Twitch, and it's just like
exactly
crowd button inputs.
Yeah, we should do that. That would be so good. What if we did crowd button inputs on Finale and then sent that in as a piece?
We have the technology.
That's a good idea.
I could throw it up on another screen. That would definitely be
that
a
is
fun
such
time.
a good idea. Oh man.
Yeah.
I would absolutely vote for that. I'm not on the ASCAP Herb Alpert competition panel, but I would vote for that.
Right.
That's outstandingly clever.
Yeah.
So everyone go steal my idea and go do that too.
Right.
May the odds be in your favor.
There you go.
I'll see you at the competition line.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I think that I'm sure that there are some good resources that you can find. I mean, it was stuff like that. You just have to keep Googling in different ways and looking around for that stuff. Some of that stuff's hidden, and sometimes it feels almost intentionally hidden. But you just kind of got to really work on it. Any of you guys lift? I didn't put it on the screen. It's fine. I already read it. But no, I don't. Neither of us do, or at least I shouldn't speak. I do not.
Don't speak so soon.
Yeah.
I don't lift.
Yeah.
I used to.
Yeah.
I did for a while. There was a long period of time where I had a teaching job where conveniently there was a YMCA like very, very much on the way home. And I committed to like, I'm going to go be so buff. And that was around like Zach and I to keep in touch. Usually we call each other like right after school. We talk about what's going on, talk about our days or our weeks or whatever. And there was a lot of days where Zach caught me. I was going into the gym. I was going to do it. We talked afterwards. Or there was a lot of days where he caught me and I was just going. There was also a vegan bodega right next to the gym. And sometimes, the vegan bodega, I get a little like pad thai tofu treat. It's delicious. Like they had these ready-made little meals or snacks. Sometimes I went and just ate them.
Yeah.
I didn't stick with it very well. I don't think that I ever bench pressed much more than 100 pounds. That was about where I maxed out. It was not a particularly good feat, but I tried it and I had a ton of fun. And I ended up making friends at the gym. I didn't know any of their names, but it was like people that I would say hello to. So even just for like the social, emotional learning, I would say go try the gym and just like be bad and go have fun. It was great. Yeah. I should do that again. I can't go. I don't live in that city anymore. So my buddies are gone, but I'll probably do it again.
You don't know. They might have found you.
Yeah, they're on the stream.
Serendipitously, like, yeah. But so interested in the physical benefits of working on brass playing. I definitely know that there are people who feel strongly about it. but I, personally haven't really gone down that rabbit hole.
I do feel a little strongly about it. Not necessarily specific to weightlifting, though I do believe in. I imagine that, like down the road when I'm, another 30 years into this, my back's probably going to feel a lot better if I was carrying a trombone around every day and also exercising my back and keeping it strong, because my family, the Eisenmingers, are not known for strong backs. So we're known for quite brittle ones. So I need to be doing that. As far as like brass playing stuff, I was recommended in undergraduate to run 15 minutes away from my house, just time it, and then whenever the clock struck 15 minutes for my stopwatch, to just turn around and go home, like running or walking or otherwise. But just to do that, either 3 to 5 weeks or every day if you can. You don't have to run. Like Bill Watchers said that he ran like 3 miles a day. That seems like a lot. I try to get like 30 minutes in. And if you're running at like a reasonable pace, like you can get a couple miles in with that. You don't have to be running these like 8-minute miles. That's what people that, crazy race winning, you can get a great cardiovascular benefit from going way slower than that. And I often do. And I think that, I don't know if it directly helps my playing.
It can't hurt.
But it can't be hurting. And it's just like, well, my lungs are like giving me a lot of creative release and outlet in my life, and my lungs are also going to be part of like how I make money throughout my career and my life. So if I was going to go on either one side of like really trashing my body or doing a little bit to work out, I'll lean on that side, just because I like the trombone and I like to keep playing it for as long as possible. And if that gives me a few more years,
right,
and I imagine it will, it's probably not going to give me an extra fortissimo to my fortissimo,
right.
But in the immediate moment, it's not going to give me any benefits. But I imagine I'll probably be able to play trombone longer.
Yeah,
so
definitely. If you can bench press a lot, you can play higher notes. That's just a fact.
That's true. That's actually, definitely.
But no. But yeah, I definitely don't think it's going to hurt anything. And I think that I've also heard some positives from doing swimming also. That's something that I think that kind of checks out. To think about like the breathing aspect and things. I think that definitely has some solid benefits and correlations that are somewhat obvious. But well, cool. I think we'll call the show there. But yeah, so next week will be Low Brass U Studio Class Episode 1. So it'll be the real deal. Everything before this point has been fake. It's just been a simulation.
You've been tricked.
Yeah, you've been duped. So the next episode will be kind of the one we start off things with. Well, thanks everyone for watching the stream, and I hope everyone has a nice Wednesday evening. Right.
Oh, wait, one thing before we split.
So close to getting cut off. If
you happen to be going to the virtual Tuba Euphonium conference, I would say, at May 29th, I think it's this Saturday, right? This Saturday, if you're free around 8:30 Central Time, I'm going to be playing the After Hours show, the very, very first night of VTech. So if you're going to VTech, at least go to the first day and stick around till the end, because I'll be there and we can say hello in the Zoom chat while I'm awkwardly performing a pre-recorded performance for you all. So
here we can throw this up.
We can throw that up?
Yeah, let's see if we can just do it on the fly.
You got a preview clip for everybody?
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can make this work.
Sure.
Let's see.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I can. It'll take me a second because you sent it to my phone via text.
What?
Didn't you?
I thought I sent it to your email.
Oh, you sent it in an email. Sorry, I just saw it on my phone. Let's get that. Let me take. It'll take me a second.
Sure, that's fine.
Did you send it to personal or professional?
Personal.
Personal.
For some reason, your professional email was not popping up.
It might be because I had to change the name on there to being Low Brass U, because YouTube and Google are together and everything is silly.
I see.
Here, I know how I'm gonna do this a different way. Let's see. I'm going to put it on the Connor computer.
While you guys are doing that, I'm
Yeah.
going to talk really quick about cardiovascular health in brass playing. As we said, it's not going to get you any extra notes. It might help you play your instrument longer. But I learned a really, really cool term recently that has nothing to do with music. I saw it on TikTok. You know where the young people hang out?
Mm-hmm.
I hang out on there. I know what the young people do.
There's a Low Brass U TikTok.
There is, yeah. Go follow, smash that follow button. But I heard this term. You ever heard of an ugly run before?
I don't know.
An ugly run. There's this club. It's on Strava. I think you can even join the Ugly Runners Club, and it's just like all about like not caring about how fast. It's just about getting out and moving. Anyways, looks like you've got it all figured out there in some capacity.
I think so.
All right. Well, sneaky peeky here.
Yeah. Let's see. We can get full screen that, and hopefully this doesn't like copyright claim somehow or something.
Should be okay. You got the composer right here. There you have it.
There it is.
All right. Well, there's your little sneaky peeky.
Right.
Sick.
So yeah, we'll call the episode 0 there. Again, hopefully everyone has a nice Wednesday evening full of lots of practicing or whatever you choose to do on your Wednesday evening. And we'll see you next week with episode 1. All right.
Over and out.